Happy Thursday, everyone. This is Frank T. Guys Dropping Knowledge coming at you once again. A little bit of a message, a little bit of knowledge. Hoping you're having a fantastic Thursday. Almost the end of the week. Stay blessed, stay safe. We're going to keep doing this. Shout out to everyone that's been watching my videos, hitting the like on my videos, leaving comments and engaging with me. You're all appreciated, as well as to the subscribers, to the old and the new. I really appreciate you. My channel is growing little by little. And I really thank you guys for the opportunity and also for the trust and making me one of your preferred content creators. That sounds crazy to me, but I'm going to continue dropping videos every day. I'm going to drop this one today, so we're going to continue doing that. As well as a shout out to ExposedTube. Hey, your platform, bro, is what made a lot of this possible. So shout out to you and to the community that, we're always gathered to talk and to clown around, to share music and life experiences. We pray for each other in there. It's all good. It feels good. It feels organic. Right? And I think it is. I believe it is. I believe that it is what it is. So we're going to continue rocking with Exposed to. There's other missions that, we have to unfold. But for the meantime, you know what time we're on. Now, this is not a response video. Okay. First and foremost, this is not a response video. I heard someone say that in a video where they were responding, but I guess they didn't want to mention the guy because maybe they didn't want backlash, or maybe they were throwing subs that they didn't know how this other content creator was going to react. I don't know, but that sounded crazy to me. But I'm going to start using that sometimes. Sometimes I'm going to say this is not a reaction video, and you're going to know that it is exactly a reaction video. Okay, that's going to be a sign. This is not a reaction video. You're going to know that it is a reaction video. But I'm not going to mention the person's name. I'm just going to talk about certain points that I want to make regarding what I saw on a video that I'm not reacting to, as well as addressing other things that I think go unchecked. And they allow for certain narratives to fly. And sometimes those narratives become like running narratives where people are attacked with that without any real knowledge, right? Number one. And number two, because I see a lot of these trolls, like a lot of these guys, I think are trolling themselves. Like a lot of these content creators, I think use fake profiles to go and troll. Hey, to each his own. Do what you got to do, right? But sometimes they'll say things like they'll press on narratives that these content creators put out there, but they don't ask like the basic questions, like to make sure that what they're saying is true. So I'm gonna put out today some information. I hope it doesn't take a long time. I hope I can do this in as short a while as possible, but it may take some time. But yeah, I want you guys to really start to question like what you're hearing. Like don't even what I say, like don't accept it at face value. Always check the sources. Always look for information. If you find something that contradicts what I say, hey, put it on the chat. It's all good as long as it's respectful. We're gonna keep it popping. But yeah, so there's a lot of like misconceptions going on, right? And I also want to talk a little bit about me because there's a lot of like questioning. As a matter of fact, this particular video that I saw that I'm not reacting to, I think was reacting to some of the stuff that I had said. That's why I'm making this video. But that person went on to say that, of course, like that guy that he was not reacting to would say that where you did time doesn't matter because the person who said that, the content creator who he was not reacting to, was from an SNY yard, right? So now if I think that he was talking about me, then he's wrong. And so, I'm just going to address like some things, and I want everybody to understand that in no way, shape, or form do we glorify prison on this channel. That's not what this channel is about. This channel is against going to prison, it's against being in a criminal lifestyle. But I know that there are many people that are stuck in that cycle, and all I can do is pray for them to one day find a way out in a way that's peaceful and with no lasting effect on you, your family, your psyche, your heart. Okay, so I want to be clear as to what it is and why it is that I do what I do. So, having said that, the first thing we have to understand is that people don't choose the prison that they're going to go to. They don't choose the prison. Okay. There may be rare instances in which that might be a possibility, but that is not a general thing. Okay, from the moment that you get locked up, like that you get arrested and they place a charge on you, that already starts turning the knobs in the legal system, right? I'm drinking coffee and it's really good, so sorry about that. But I'm probably going to do that a couple of more times. But anyways, so depending on the crime, the cogs, the legal cogs start moving around. And you start the process, right? You get locked up, they process you, they book you, they throw you in a little cell until it's time to go to court. Usually you have, from what I remember, you have 48 hours or 72 hours to go to court. I don't remember because I don't follow that stuff. Like I really don't follow a lot of it. But you're given time from the moment that you're arrested to when you're supposed to arrive in court. Usually, you stay at that jail where you were locked up at, and then after that first court appearance, then they shoot you to like the main county jail. It all depends on where you're from. That's what I saw happening with us because I was locked up. When I got locked up, I got busted in the valley. I stayed in the valley till I went to court, and then that day that I went to court, that's when I was processed and sent to the LA County. Okay, that's kind of how it worked back then. We're talking 97. Okay, so don't take my word for it. Things may have changed now, but that's how. Well, take my word for it that that's how it was back then. I wouldn't know if that's how it is now. I can't talk about it now. Okay. Okay. So, anyways, now from there, you may be given bail, right? So if you're given bail and you're able to pay, you can fight your case from the street. And if you have enough money, you can pay for lawyers. So all of these things may give you an advantage, may not give you an advantage. Depends on how you use that time. Okay, others may be offered bail, may be able to pay bail, but may not have their own lawyer, so they're working with a what's it called? Public defendant? No, public defender. Yeah, public defender. Yeah. Okay. So yeah. So you're working with a public defender, but you're out on the street. That's okay. But then there's many like us, like me included, where we stayed behind bars, and even though we were offered bail, either we couldn't pay it, or in my case, when my mom was talking about, you know what, I can get the money, blah blah blah. I'm like, you know what, mom, I don't want you to go through all the trouble of that, especially when I knew that if they ended up offering us a plea bargain, that's probably what we were gonna do, right? So yeah, so during that time, you're being charged for one thing, but you may end up getting convicted for something else, right? The crime can change. Maybe you were fighting an attempted murder, and the person that was attempted to be murdered just fought their or lost their fight with death and died in the hospital. So it went from attempted to murder. Now you got to fight a murder charge, and that may change the legal strategy. It may change how much more money you have to spend, and all of these things before you're even given a charge, right? But just like it can become an aggravated thing, like where the charges become aggravated, they can also lessen if they don't have enough proof, if things point to where you may not be as criminal or as implied in the situation, or maybe they realize that there was no criminal intent. Like all of these things can take precedent. There's a lot of wheeling and dealing that goes on, and a lot of times the DA, all they want is a conviction. Like they can give you 25 years or they can give you 5 years, but as long as they can get a conviction, like what they're looking for is to get that conviction rate quota high all the time for election purposes. They can come out and say, hey, look, I'm 95% conviction rate, right? I put away, killers. And maybe, yeah, they put away a killer, but they got a plea bargain out of them and only gave them 12 years. Then the DA has to go and explain to the family why they let this guy who killed, two members of their family, only get 12 years because he testified in a case of an unrelated crime. Like, but that's the kind of thing that goes on. So all of these things play a factor in what ends up being what you're convicted of. They might even drop the charges and you get no conviction. They might just say, you know what, we're going to put you on probation, or you may end up getting a fine or something, or you may end up getting time. Right? And then it depends if it was a felony, if it was a misdemeanor, and how much time comes attached to that. So even then, you're not deciding. The courts are deciding. The point system, the evaluation is deciding. The system is deciding where you're going to go, what's going to happen to you. It's not you. Okay? No, in no way, shape, or form are you going to decide what prison you're going to be on. I hear Dubs getting at Chill all the time about being at CMC. So, like, and it was a prison where nothing was popping. Great. That's great. Maybe we can do business. Maybe I can make money. Maybe, I don't need it to be violent. I don't need it to be turbulent. Like, what are we talking about here? Like, these guys, like, they say they want to deter people from going to jail, but then they glorify these things like, wow, like, yeah, if your thought process is, I shouldn't be here, which was my thought process. I wasn't going to raise my hand for things, but that does not mean you escape the politics. Because once you're affiliated, you're affiliated. You didn't escape them in LA County. If something popped off in LA County, you were going to ride. I remember when I was going to court, okay, and they put me in a one of the holding tanks in the old dirty ass LA County, right? And they were putting the shuffling between holding tanks, so they put you on your train to court. And then one of the last shuffle, so they put me in there. They throw some passes in there, and then I see these three Asian kids like walking to the holding tank. And I was sitting in the corner in the back, but I'm watching them, and I'm like this. And then right behind them, this homeboy that was coming from state that was going to court. And we locked eyes on each other, like, hey, what's up, right? Like, we locked eyes because you can tell, like, like, hey, what's up, right? And then he turns to me and he goes like, hey, what's up? Like, what's up with these Asian cats? And at that time, there was a green light on Asians in the LA County. I mean, there was always green lights in the LA County. So we had to get down. We had to get down. So, I could have easily said, hell no, I'm not fighting. And he could have fought. And then I could have, you know, but we weren't, I wasn't on that time. So you don't escape the consequences of politics even while you're going to court if you're locked up. After you get locked up, even if you only do your time in the county, if you do your time in a level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, you don't escape the politics, right? They may not be as crazy as they are in a level 4 and a level 3, but if you're locked up in Northern California and you're from Southern California, there's definitely going to be some general politics going on, rules and regulations that have to be respected. But I couldn't decide where I was going to go. No, they shot me to Wasco, went to reception, and from there they shot me to Solano level 2. But it was a general population. It was a main line. It wasn't no SNY yard. And then when the riot hit, because there were less numbers, there was less Southsiders, there was only 10 of us in the dorm to 40 of them, and we had already heard the rumblings, we had already seen the moves, we knew they were going to try to make a power move, so it was like, okay, we just got to be ready. We were supposed to be the third building to get off, and ended up being the first building to get off. That happened in 88. Well, it's there. And whoever was there and was on that yard, will know that I was there. I mean, you don't escape the politics, and it's easy even at that level to roll it up. It wasn't called SNY, it was called PC. You PC'd up. It was protective custody. That's how I knew it. I didn't even know SNY yards existed till I, started watching YouTube and all these, all of this stuff was out there. I didn't know what that was. But I stand by the fact that in prison, you're only going to learn how to survive. Now, if you learn how to be clean, if you learn how to make your bunk, take a shower, go presentable to visit and to the yard, man, you should have been learning this at home. So I don't see that as a very big positive. Okay, yeah, you follow routines, that's good. You do exercise, that's good. You're responsible. You got to be, yeah, but at the threat of being getting your ass kicked or worse. A lot of these skills could have been learned outside, right? So I can't glamorize learning all of these things from behind bars, where when you can do them from the streets, right? For where you can do them if you righteously seek knowledge, and not to be in the criminal lifestyle. Some people can't escape it, but if you can escape it, do so. So, just because someone gets sent to a certain type of prison, you don't decide. Now, you can decide to go to a sensitive needs yard. I understand that. Okay, which is something I never did. You can decide to roll it up and go PC. I can understand that that's a fact because I've seen it. And you can also decide to move up. And I've known guys that didn't want to be in level twos and level ones, so they ended up fighting and doing things so they can live in the cell. Some people, that's important to them. I met this guy, real cool guy. We were cool. We that was my road dog. We would walk around together, yard and work out. And when we played basketball 2-on-2, that was my partner. Handball, that was my handball partner. But he decided that he wanted to go up in the ranks, and he started, asking to be the one to be sent to do things at that level. And so they did. And he got caught up in a couple of things. And, by like 2 months later, he was on a level three. And I think he was happy. But that was not me. And that would never be me. Right. And I think that a lot of that has to do with just a sense of belonging. Like they want to belong to something. And I can relate. I can understand. But I give thanks to God that I knew I had a family out here waiting for me. You know? So, yeah, I mean, we have to understand that that narrative that everyone that's on YouTube that was in prison has to be no good or has to, that's a lie. That's a fallacy. So I wanted to address that too, right? And also the other thing where, just because you were on a level three, level four, that does not make you harder or more of a man than someone that didn't go to a level one or that went to a level one, level two, maybe went to fire camp. I wanted to go to fire camp. I heard it was bomb. I couldn't though, because they already had a lien on me. Federal government was trying to fish me out. So I couldn't go to a fire camp. I would have wanted to. It sounded bomb. Why not? You know? But what I'm saying is, don't let anyone like fool you. Like, so here's my question to these guys and to everyone in general, right? So when I was growing up, while I was on the street, before I got locked up, and even now, like even now out here, and maybe you've known of men or people that have bodies, right? That have done some crazy shit and they're still walking around, never been caught up, never got locked up. Or they've gone to prison for other things, right? Maybe lesser things for lesser time. I've known dudes that only went to Supermax in the county, like that's as far as they went. But we knew like who the type of person that individual was not someone to play with. Right, so what you would call them weak for not going being ever locked up in a level four or level three, or for not being in the shoe, they would be weak just because they didn't get caught. So we're weak because our crimes, the crimes that we got locked up for, weren't necessarily the crimes that we were being charged for, or that we could have gotten caught for in the past, but never did get caught. You got to be careful, man. You can't just throw things out there and expect people not to put out a reaction. So yeah, this is not a reaction to your video. More than anything, it's just education. We got to be educated about these things. And we got to stop glamorizing prison. Stop glamorizing it. It wasn't cool. It's not fun. And this person in their video said it themselves. He talked about all of these honorable attributes, but at the same time talked about how some people go to these other prisons, these S and Y prisons, because they might have gotten pencil whipped. So what's honorable in that? Or in situations where they use their power against someone out of hate or jealousy, but that person didn't deserve to get, stuck and then rolled up. That's not cool. Like, I can't glamorize that. Like, how would that be cool? Like, how is that respectable? And I understand people have to live that way, and I understand that that's how politics are, even in the real world. It's cutthroat. It's a cutthroat world. But that's exactly what I'm against, and what I'm trying to represent is that there are better ways of doing it, there are better ways of living, and that's what my channel is all about. So, having said that, I hope all of you guys have an excellent day, an excellent rest of the week, and until next time, peace.